Hello there everyone, how you doing today? I hope you're all well. Today we're going into r/EntitledPeople, where there's a few stories that might just make you angry at entitled people. Now, if you enjoy, do a like and subscribe, check out my links down below, and maybe leave a comment. Now, without further ado, let's get started, okay? Parents threw me out as a child and then expected everything from me when my grandparents died. I was born when my mother and father were only 17. It forced both my parents to drop out of high school and each get a GED so they could find work right away. My father especially was not happy about this because he had dreams of playing football in college, and instead he had to work at a gas station. He said to my face many times that I ruined his dream. My mother hardly raised me at all, as she had work to do. They had a cranky old lady next door watching me most of the time. She wasn't so bad. She gave me more attention than my parents did. My father eventually managed to land a better job as a manager due to his experience running the gas station. It was right after that my mom got pregnant with my sister. I was 6 when she was born. I wasn't exactly shown much love before that, but once my sister came along, it was made pretty obvious, even to my 6-year-old self, that I was unwanted. The only ones who seemed to care were my paternal grandparents and somewhat my babysitter. And they were more like my parents because they treated me the way a little kid needed to be loved. We lived in a 2-bedroom apartment, and as my sister got older, it went from me sharing a bedroom with her to me kicked out of the room entirely. I slept on the couch for 2 years, and I barely had anything to my name other than clothes, school supplies, and an old Game Boy. When I was 10, my parents decided they were going to move away, but this move did not include me. I ended up actually being fine with this, as my grandparents had agreed to take me in. My life was instantly better. I got my own room again, and my grandparents gifted me a brand new N64 in 1996. That Christmas, I got a Game Boy Pocket too, and there were a couple times of other kids my age in the neighborhood that I got to hang out with. We rode bikes, played video games, shot cans with pellet guns. We built forts and got dirty playing in the creek. You know, stuff a normal kid would enjoy. I was finally happy. As time went on, I grew up and eventually moved out, but later moved back in to help my grandparents' house as they were getting old and living off their retirement savings. So some rent money from me went a long way in paying the bills. My grandpa was the kind of person who'd want to build in the 60s, but was turned down due to a medical condition, and the fact his eyesight was not so great. So he focused on saving whatever he thought he needed. He told me many times it was better to have something and not need it than need it and not have it. Our area suffered from numerous power outages in winter due to heavy winds and storms, so having gasoline and propane for heaters and generators was a must. All these saving habits became my own as time went on, because it was better to need this stuff rarely than to not have it at all. Of course, there was the HOA bothering us, but that's its own other story. The problem is, about 5 years back, my grandma died suddenly, and my grandpa was heartbroken. He went as well about a year and a half later. Pretty much everything they owned was willed to me. Their savings, their house, their vehicles, their stuff, everything. The house was long paid off, and Grandpa knew how to keep up with its maintenance. In fact, after Grandma died, he kind of doubled down on renovating the place. He had the roof redone, the house was repainted by us, inside and out. and we fixed a lot of little things. Grandpa's neighbor George even came by to help redo the plumbing. Ironically, the HOA was rather happy with these changes, because the house didn't look run down anymore. One morning, I was fixing breakfast, and, well, my grandpa never came downstairs. You couldn't keep the man from his bacon, so I went to check on him, and he wasn't moving. I called 911, and the paramedics came, only to tell me he had passed in his sleep. My parents made Grandpa's funeral a poop show. They didn't bother to show up for Grandma's, they were too busy, and at Grandpa's funeral, they didn't seem to grieve at all. My sister also showed up, wearing a brightly colored designer dress, which I wasn't happy about, as it was a church clothes-only function. I noticed my parents repeatedly whispering to each other and glaring at me whenever I looked at them. I come to find out at the will reading that my parents knew they'd been disinherited long ago for their treatment of me, and they thought it was extremely unfair that I got everything. They threatened to sue me to contest the will, and I got repeated calls and messages from my father, mother, and sister telling me I needed to do the right thing and give my father what was supposed to be his. I told them all to flake off in far more unsavory words. My parents ended up taking me to court to challenge the will, but the judge ruled in my favor after seeing the will and hearing us both out. So it wasn't a long drawn-out legal battle. The judge even looked at my parents with absolute disgust after seeing the will and hearing about their mistreatment of me in childhood. He called my father a terrible parent, and that my grandparents were right to disown him. My father just hung his head in silence, but he made sure to stop me outside of the courtroom and tell me I was always the biggest mistake of his life, and that if he could go back in time, he'd make sure I never existed. He should have been a football star, and instead he has to wear a name tag for a 9-to-5. I told him that, mistake or not, Grandma and Grandpa could see what kind of nasty person he was. I didn't ask to be born, and the only real love I ever got was from my grandparents, and he was no father of mine anymore. I got a few more threatening and harassing phone calls, as well as some letters from my parents, all demanding money among other things. But over time, they just stopped because I completely stonewalled them, never responded to emails or letters, and I stayed silent during the phone calls. A few times, I just let the phone sitting on the counter with them ranting until they realized I was not, in fact, listening. Aside from not getting the house or money, my parents seemed particularly irked that they could not even get a rise out of me. But I was prepared to go to war against them, and they knew it. So in the end, they just left me alone. From what I know, looking at the Facebook the past decade, my sister tried to get into modeling, got married, had 2 kids, got divorced, and is currently unhappily working a job she feels is beneath her. My mother currently works retail, and is also vocal about her disdain of it. Like my father, she peaked in high school. She was a cheerleader back then, and even had her old uniform framed on the wall. My father has pretty much had the same job for 25 years. He must be good at it if he's still doing it. Well, as for me, I'm in my late 30s now, and I live pretty much debt-free in a nice neighborhood. I haven't really had a girlfriend since high school, and I've had little motivation to have another relationship. But loneliness gets to everyone, so maybe I'll try to find someone soon. Not many are in the financial position I'm in at my age. Single, paid-off house, 2 vehicles, and a decent amount in the bank. I guess I could aim to be a stepfather. That might be more my speed. You go, OP. That was a wonderful story. Keep it up. Karen attacked me over headphones and a DVD player while I was camping because I was watching Tailspin, claiming her child needed something to entertain themselves with. In the past, I've made posts about my jerk of a brother, but this time something else happened. I decided to go camping again for the first time this year because of spring break. Though I only got the weekend to go, but it was just enough for me to unwind. My brother didn't follow me like he used to. I think I've finally gotten him to understand screwing with me is just not worth it anymore after he drank that growler full of laxative-spiked beer he stole from me last year. So the drama from him has been as bad for the past few months. Though he's still an entitled jerk, and I've got plenty of things to tell about him and his antics from the months I wasn't posting. I figured my worries about camping trouble were over. But oh no, I had to deal with a lunatic Karen. I'd already spent one night at my campsite. I was loving the fresh air. And fortunately, rain was minimal. That's the only reason I went. Otherwise, I would have just stayed home. But I had an itch to scratch to get out and enjoy some mountain air. I was far from alone, as the spaces around me were full of tents, trailers, and RVs. Plenty of people caught the camping bug during spring break, just like I did. I was sitting relaxed in a folding lawn chair and watched Tailspin on my portable DVD player. Yeah, I know it's a cartoon, and an old one at that, but I've enjoyed it since I was a kid. I used to watch the same old tapes off of it as a cousin had, and I've owned the DVDs of the complete series for around 10 years. And I won't deny, I've always had a bit of crush on the character Rebecca Cunningham. I had headphones on because other campers were playing music, barbecuing, and doing other things. And I was just chilling and letting myself mentally zone out with some refreshing cold beer when I got a sudden and hard tap on my shoulder that frankly scared the pee out of me for a second. And then I turned around to see a roughly middle-aged woman in over-tight purple yoga pants with her hands on her hips. She didn't have the haircut, but she did have the bleach blonde hair and overly large bug-eye sunglasses. I know in this situation a lot of people will reflexively say, "Can I help you?" But that's just giving an opening to these people to say whatever they want. So my first reaction is to angrily say, "What? Can't you see I'm trying to relax by myself?" And that set her back for a second. She didn't go away, so I paused the episode I was on and grumpily asked her what she was bothering me about. She spoke up in a matter-of-fact way that sounded like she was trying to be in charge. I guess trying to activate mom mode on a stranger. But I think the unfriendly scowl on my face was enough to show that I'm not exactly friendly. So she just pointed at the portable DVD player and said she wanted to borrow it, and the headphones for her daughter. To make it brief, I said no, and no is a complete sentence. Because I don't know her. I don't know if she would actually bring it back, and I certainly don't know if her kid wouldn't damage it. I do actually keep a smaller backup portable DVD player in the camper too, but I wasn't about to let that woman know that. Well, she certainly didn't take to being told off like that well, and then launched into a tirade about how I was a grown man, watching cartoons, how they have only one TV in their RV, and their daughter needs something to watch because her kids can't agree on what to watch, so she needs my DVD player. I coldly said that was not happening, and she actually gave me a loud, "Why not?" So I pointed out to her that this was really not my problem. And she just crossed her arms and said that as an adult, I should be putting kids first. I said, that would be the case if I had kids, but her kids are not my kids, and I don't know them. I'm in no way related to them, and therefore I have no obligation to them. She rolled her eyes and then tried to offer me money for the headphones and DVD player. Admittedly, I didn't pay much for either of them, but I don't care. I wasn't interested in selling. She only offered $20 for both anyway. I told her no, and to kindly leave me alone to watch movies in peace. And then I just tried to sit back down and resume the episode. And she didn't take that well, and proceeded to try and grab my DVD player right in front of me, like I was just going to let her walk off with it. I got up and stopped her while saying, "That ain't yours, lady." She proceeded to try and shove me over. Try being the word. She clearly underestimated how heavy I am. I don't look it at all, but I'm over about 230 pounds. My body frame just hides it well, and I've been in a few brawls in my life. I ended up grabbing her arms and shoving her back with little effort. She fell on her bum into some wet grass and started yelling that I assaulted her while looking around for support. I've seen enough Karen stories to know where this goes if I say nothing. So I said, "Yeah, assault. Assault on me when you tried to push me over and steal my stuff. And there's plenty of witnesses around us, lady, or did you not notice?" There had already been a few people around us watching the whole altercation, and they'd gone dead quiet while staring. So I then said to everyone, "Check it out, we got a bona fide Karen here who tried to take my stuff for her precious angel baby. Everyone clap for her." And they did. They actually started clapping. The Karen looked completely humiliated and stormed off, screeching that I was an asshole. Her yoga pants butt was wet from all the grass too, which only made it funnier. I kept thinking, "Your ass is grass," as she walked away, but I didn't say it out loud. I tried to resume watching the DVD as I was, but I felt uneasy that the Karen might come back. She snuck up on me rather easily before, and I didn't want to risk that again. So I packed up and went back into my camper to continue watching and drinking inside. I got pretty plastered that night. I remember giggling like a moron while watching the episode with the panda people that were evil Chinese stereotypes. Stayed at the campsite for one more night and didn't see the Karen again until I was leaving Sunday afternoon. I saw her standing by her POS-looking RV with a large fountain beverage in one hand and a dog leash in the other. It was one of those yappy little fluffball dogs too. She glared at me as I drove past, and I just waved to her and said, "Bye, Karen," out the window. She threw her drink at my truck, but none of it got through the window, so I could hear her yelling at me. But I couldn't really make out a word of it. I'm not sure what goes on in the heads of these people. I understand this could have gotten a lot worse, like that nut bar sticking the local ranger on me or something. But I think the public humiliation was enough to make her back off. I can only wonder what the rest of her family is like. Glad I didn't meet them. And that's the end of today's episode.
Hey, can I borrow your attention for a little second? You see, I'm saving up for some equipment items, like a VR headset so I can record in VR chat, or a new AT2020 mic. You can help me fund these by going to my throne in the description below. I'll leave it on the top to help you find it. If you enjoy my video, please check it out. Now, that's the end of today's video. I'll see you later.